Hello and welcome back to Learning Basic on the Spectrum. Now today I want to talk about the RND function, random. Now I've got my game up here which I've recently released onto itch. It's Specky the Diamond Thief, and I used that function RND a lot to create this game. I'm just about to die. So right, so how I used it was to change the opening positions of the platforms. So when I hit this box, as you can see, the positions of the platforms change. There you go. And it also happens when one of the little blue policemen touch it as well. And random was used as well to change the colours. So I'm going to show you basically how that was done. Right, so what I've done is I've done a little mock program here just to show you. Just get rid of that white border. So what I've done is I've basically recreated that game just to show you how I did the platform changes. So if I press C, you can see that all the O's now are in different positions every time I push the C. Now that's all done with the RND command. And you can see down the bottom I've written in INT and then random times 15 plus 8. And now that will give me a number between 8 and 22. Okay. Now it can be quite difficult to get your head around this, because you would think, well, why isn't it giving me a random number between 8 and 15? Well, if you add 8 to 15, you get 23. It starts from 0, so that becomes 22. So that's where the 22 comes from. That's how we get that calculation. Okay. Now to space that out onto that platform like I've done, if I go down, let's change the colour to white so we can see it a bit better. If I just go down to where that, which is number 75, I believe. Let's just pull that down. No, it's not that one. Where is it? That one there. So 80. I've got a for next loop in there. It starts to print at line 4 and goes to line 14. Then all I've done is a step 2. And I've included my print statement in there, as you can see, with the random statement on the line, on the horizontal. So it goes INT. INT will give you a whole number. It will round it down to the lowest whole number. So then we've got RND times 15 plus 8. Okay, and that's where it's printing up the zeros. And then I've got it beeps with the A. I've also included that onto the loop. And then the next line, at line 90, I've put next A. So it just continues that loop every time I push the C. Okay, so that's how that was done. Now let's talk a little bit more about random. Okay, so I've put up on the screen here another example. So we've got RND generates a random number between 0 and 0.999999. Then you've got INT, random times 21 minus 10 generates a random number between minus 10 and plus 10. Then we've got INT, random times 40 generates a random whole number between 0 and 39. And then the last one, INT, random times 40 plus 1 generates a random whole number between 1 and 40. So that's just to give you some idea of how the INT and the RND functions work. Okay, now this is very useful for when creating games, as I just showed you in the game that I created with the platforms changing and with the color changes as well. Also, by using the keyword randomize, okay, which on the keyboard is on letter T and it's marked as RAND. RND can also be found on the same key. Now, randomize, the command works in a similar way by controlling where RND starts selecting from its store of 65,536 numbers. Alright, so if I was to include this in this little example program I'd done here, if I start it off at line 6, if I was to put randomize 10 for example, now what that's going to do is randomize 10 starts the random sequence off at the 10th stored number of each run. So I wouldn't expect it to change because it's trying to start it from its 10th stored number all the time because it's in a loop. Alright, so it's just going to remain the same. Now if I change that to randomize on its own, what that basically will do is when it's on its own, it uses the time since the computer was switched on to set the starting point of the RND. Okay, so basically using randomize with RND makes RND even more random. Okay, so I hope that makes sense on that one as well, how you can incorporate that command as well to help with the RND to make it even more randomized, even more random. So it's a very useful command, the RND, and as you can see I used it in my game. I've used it in quite a lot of my games to be honest, but I specifically used it a lot when I was doing Specky the Diamond Thief. Now just to change colour for example, if I just go new, so very quickly just to show you how we can use RND to change our ink colours. So if I was to leave that like that, it would give us a random number between 0 and 6. So that would basically be black all the way to yellow. So it would miss out the colour 7, which is white. If I want that added as well, I'd have to do +1. So that will now give us a random number between 1 and 7. Okay, so what about if I wanted the black as well though? So just return that back and change that 7 to an 8, because that will now give us a random number between 0 and 7. I just type the word hello and then 20, go to 10, run. There you go. There you go, it stopped on black. And that's basically it. That's how you can add colour to your text in a random loop to make it change colour. I hope this has been a useful video. I've tried to explain best I can how the RND, the INT and the randomize functions can be used. And have a play with it, change the numbers around. That's the best way to do it, is just get stuck in and change the calculations around and just have a play with it. Anyway, like I say, I hope it's been useful and I shall see you on the next one. Thank you very much for watching.